This episode of the Ringer NBA Show is brought to you by Miller Lite. Look, here at the Ringer, we have our disagreements, but there shouldn't be any debate about this. Miller Lite is the great-tasting light beer. With only 96 calories and 3.2 grams of carbs, that's fewer calories and half the carbs of Bud Light, so there's really nothing more to talk about. If you want to have a real argument, we'll hear it. Until then, stick with Miller Lite. Miller Lite, hold true. Welcome to the Ringer NBA Show. I'm Chris Vernon, and joining me as he does every Tuesday, but we're recording it late on a Monday night after we just watched Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals, is Kevin O'Connor from TheRinger.com, a.k.a. Kevin O'Bomber, a.k.a. Kevin O'Concert, Kevin O'Conflict, a.k.a. Kevin O'Chatter, Kevin O'Draft Chatter. What we heard in Chicago. I woke up to an article by Kevin O'Chatter this morning.
Oh my God, Chris, what's going on, man?
Everything's good. I did not feel like I just watched a game that the Celtics won 3 of 4 quarters, yet you look at the box score and they won the last 3 quarters, but they got absolutely buried in quarter number 1. And I think, what was it, 7? Maybe it was 8 or 7 was the closest that they got in the entire game. I so desperately wanted there to be a highly competitive basketball game. And there was a couple moments in this one where I thought it was going to get, maybe they're getting back into it. They had played what you felt like the Cavaliers had really dominated the game. But a shot here, shot there, maybe all of a sudden you're in a 2-possession game, but it never really got to that moment. And then of course LeBron hit the dagger when it mattered most. I don't know, man. I saw you tweet about this. I'm sorely missing highly competitive playoff basketball.
We got it for 3 quarters. we got a good game for 3 quarters. It just so happens that it was a big difference because of that first quarter, Chris. It's amazing how this game, I know Haralabob tweeted about this on Twitter, but like LeBron James scored 44 points, and it was maybe the most quiet 44 points I can ever remember LeBron scoring. It's just a testament to his greatness in a way that it feels quiet because we're used to him being so amazing. But he was remarkable tonight, scoring 44 points on 17 of 28 shooting, and really did it from all areas of the floor, like he typically does.
Here's the one thing, though. We can always count on him being great. It's just a matter of how great. Generally, he's like we can pretty well pencil him in for being great. It's these other guys. And earlier in the series, I know there was a sentiment that this could be a series where the role guys are like, the old adage that role guys are better at home. Like, it couldn't be more true. Like, George Hill has been really good in these games in Cleveland.
Tristan Thompson and Larry Nance too. Well, they're getting it from their bigs.
Thompson has been, outstanding. Really. He is contesting stuff at he was terrible all year. It's the craziest thing. He has really showed up. And has been a force.
Only amazing versus Al Horford, really, it seems.
I thought he was good at the tail end of the Pacers series too.
Yeah,
remember?
He was. Yeah, he was.
When LeBron called upon them, and it was funny in his post-game interview with Doris Burke, he spoke of all of the minutes that those guys have logged together in big spots. And so, that there's been these acquisitions, yet, it's Thompson and it's JR and it's Korver and these guys that he feels super comfortable with. And he said, and George Hill's played in a lot of big games, and I played against him in a lot of big games. It was weird. I don't think he mentioned Kevin at all, weirdly, in that entire monologue that he put on. The one guy that has not been a part of this that I thought did actually have a sneaky big impact was Nance, because I felt like Boston had some momentum. And I don't know about you, but it felt like Nance made like a lot of big plays in his 10 minutes. He was just always crashing the boards. He was, obviously he got the block right at the rim He got a 3-point play on his one field goal that he made. He was, and I don't know, I thought he was like super active, brought a lot of energy to the table, and kind of made sure that lead grew rather than deteriorate when he was in. So that was kind of interesting because he had been in witness protection early in the series.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this last Tuesday or last Monday night, whatever it was, where I mean, maybe Ty Lue plays Tristan Thompson more, and then maybe if that works well, you play Larry Nance, and that's kind of what's happened, right? I mean, Larry Nance only played 10 minutes, but it was 10 super impactful minutes for the Cavaliers. Hit, crashing the glass, as you said, had the 2 blocks. I thought Cleveland's done a really good job integrating their bigs. They hit Tristan Thompson a couple times. I think it was in the fourth quarter. Kevin Love on the short roll when Boston's defense comes over to rotate. They're just dumping it off to Thompson, and he's putting the ball in or drawing a foul. They're doing a really good job integrating their bigs on offense. And then as a whole, Thompson, Nance, everybody on that team really is just playing with greater effort on the defensive end of the floor. Isn't it amazing, Chris, what good effort does for defense?
It is. And I'll be honest with you, I'm surprised that Boston didn't get it coming out of the box, because I would have viewed this if I'm them. Listen, it's not a must win because that if you can catch a game 7, you get it in your home arena, but they can't be dicking around like that. Like, now they're in a spot where they've got to win 2 out of 3 versus LeBron James. And you got a lot better chance if you get 4 cracks at that, at getting, you know what I mean? If you've got to I'm saying if you got 1 more win and you got 3 more games to get 1 more win, if they could have somehow won tonight. But so I would have viewed this, I don't know, with a lot more urgency than seemingly they did. That's what I'd say.
I don't know if I feel the same. I think it was really a pretty evenly matched game for 3 quarters. It's just in that first quarter, I thought really it was their offense. Like, they took a heck of a lot of mid-range jumpers early in the clock. They were taking some really wild threes as well.
Kevin,
Brown,
they gave up 34 points. They gave up 34 points.
I know. But part of that is because of your poor offense leading to either transition or leading to early offense for Cleveland, where they're getting into their sets earlier rather than having to take it out from under the rim. They were taking some really bad shots in that first quarter. And you're right. Like, it's defense as well, but I think that their offense is really the big issue, in my opinion. Like, towards the middle of the quarter, it was just really, really bad for them in that quarter. It's like they weren't really running anything, it seemed.
But they were also a defense that has been so good and had been on a string. And that 68 was the most points they had put up against them in a half. So, they scored a lot more in the second half. Their defense still stunk. They gave up 68 points by halftime, and you saw they abandoned that'll be interesting to see if that carries over. And was the Cleveland 21 and 22 point quarters a function of some complacency because you're a team playing with a big lead, and so you simply don't have that same urgency? Or is it possible that adjustment where they stopped switching, they just said, stay home, right? Because this is breaking down defensively over and over again. And so did that maybe, now start to swing things? Did they, I don't know. Do you think they might have found something in that second half? Because clearly there was a major difference in point output. You're talking about giving up 68 in the first half and giving up only 43 in the second half.
It's not easy. It's really not easy. Even when they were trying to do that, Chris, as you mentioned, like less switching, trying to just fight through the screens, there's still a lot of times where Cleveland was still able to get a mismatch on Terry Rozier all game and really throughout the entire playoffs, right? We're seeing the Rockets do it against the Warriors by trying to attack Steph Curry. We're seeing it vice versa with the Warriors trying to attack James Harden. We're seeing Cleveland just attack Terry Rozier possession after possession. Put it this way, like Tristan Thompson, they're feeding him against Terry Rozier of all people. Tristan Thompson, like, that's viewed as a mismatch just because of the sheer height difference. It's just really fascinating to see each team, and then Boston attacking Kevin Love as well when they can, just attacking the weakest link because of the way defenses are switching. It's interesting to me, and I do think Boston does need to do a little bit. They do need to try to fight a little bit more, not to switch so easily, because that's been so important for Cleveland's offense. They're either drawing a double or just shooting over a guy because they're just bigger than him.
And I think they're going to go back and watch this game tape, and they're going to be sick to their stomach because they had at least 10 missed layups or dunks. At least in the game. I mean, they missed so many shots at the rim.
They shot 19 of 36 within 8 feet. They shot 19 of 34 in the restricted area, which is really, really bad. Like, they were getting to the lane. They were getting to the basket, which is exactly what you want. 40% of their shots came from the restricted area. That's pretty good. But they just were missing dunks, missing layups, as you said. It really was a game like that, Chris, wasn't it? Where it just felt like a lot of missed opportunities for Boston, whether it was those missed layups or missed dunks, or even some of the open threes that they had when they seemed to have momentum, a chance to cut it to closer than 7, but they just were missing shots at times where they absolutely needed to.
You know, and they're young guys. They played aggressive. They were going to the basket and they were attacking. But like you said, the numbers tell a story. They weren't converting. So at the end, you've got Jaylen Brown going 10 of 23. You've got Jason Tatum going 5 of 13. I mean, that's 15 for 36 between them. And you know this, like at least 2 or 3 of Brown's were at the very end where, like, who cares? Like, it didn't even matter. Right, he made that last one. He dunked 2, I think, at the end of the game.
I think, it's a little bit of both. I put this in Ringer's Slack during the game. At one point, I said how, like, it seemed like Boston needs to start feeding Tatum like he's a veteran go-to scorer. Like, they just need to start feeding him the ball and use him in that role. But on the other hand, Tatum was getting some touches and he was passing on some chances too. So I think it's a little bit of both where Tatum needs to just absorb that role. He needs to be a guy, getting fed more opportunity, but he also needs to take it when it's there. And same with Al Horford too. I would like to see Boston feed him more than 13 shots. And granted, like, you're fine with that. I think those are your 2 best scorers, Jason Tatum and Al Horford. I think you need to get them as many shots as you can, especially in a series, especially when Cleveland is hustling on defense like this. Kyle Korver with 2 blocks, a strip of Jaylen Brown. He was fantastic on both ends for Cleveland,
for sure. And I'll also say this: I don't want. It's not an excuse, right? Because you can't get buried in the first quarter and then be trying to make it up the entire game, which is exactly the position Boston put themselves in. But Cleveland did. It was not running a layup line. They hit so many jumpers in that first half. I mean, so many. I don't know what the number will be at the end. I mean, I'd love to see the breakdown of the first quarter, and certainly, if your idea is, hey, make sure you turn LeBron into a jump shooter. Like, I mean, and we saw this that he did it in the last series, where there are some nights where he's just going to be hitting the step back, and he's going to be like, there's nothing you can do, right? You're wanting to. That's if you're picking between 2 evils, that's the one you want. But if he's burying them, forget it. You get a game like tonight where it's just totally unstoppable. And it seemed like the other guys too. I mean, they were just really, I think if you're Boston, I think Brad Stevens was even saying this. I kind of like what we're doing and just stay the course on this, because I think he's probably watching and going, boy, it's not easy to be shooting over 60% when you're taking as many jumpers as they are, but that was the case.
It's funny because I did pull up the numbers just now, Chris, and in the first half, 5 of LeBron's 7 makes were jumpers outside of the restricted area. And then in the second half, conversely, it was the opposite. 7 of his makes were in the restricted area to only 2 jump shots. So it was really completely different halves for LeBron James and the way he was scoring the ball from the field. Yeah, I mean, look, so sometimes basketball really is that simple, isn't it? Where you're making shots, right? Sometimes it really is just like that.
Well, it's the whole team too, right? And again, I mean, you can't say enough about. I can't believe Thompson is such a force. It was reminiscent tonight of watching the series when they beat the Warriors. He was so essential to what they were doing way back when, and it was routinely double doubles. Like, he was playing big minutes and double doubles, and there were like massive portions of the season he wasn't even like playing this year. And now he's like double Tristan Thompson again. You figure it out.
You know, it's like, it's stunning in the sense that he hasn't done it all season long, but we also talked about this before, you know, like during the start of the series where it's like, well, maybe Thompson gives him a chance, yep. Right? Because look, Thompson hasn't been the same guy all season long, but there's no denying that in past playoff series against the Celtics, in the past when Horford was with the Hawks, Thompson has historically given the Celtics and Horford trouble. And we're seeing the difference that he can make in this matchup where Boston just has a hard time against keeping Thompson off the boards, keeping him away from with those dump off passes, like I mentioned earlier, off the short roll. Look, and it's also just the fact that his defense has been quite good as well, with his ability to either switch, play a traditional pick and roll defense. Overall, he's just been tremendous for Cleveland.
Okay. Is there any other explaining except for Boston is just, we know the record, we know the stats. It is very hard to understand how you can be such a radically different team, home versus road. But that has been the case virtually the entire playoffs. I think they've won one road game, right? I think they've won one. They've won one road game these entire playoffs. And you see, I mean, they buried them in game one and won by 25. They ended up beating them by, I think it was 13 in game two. I mean, they're both double-digit margins. And then they get beat by 30, and then they get beat, like tonight, it ends up being 9 was the final margin. But you kind of felt like, you know, if Cleveland would have, they coasted to the 9-point win. If you would have told them, you know, we'll give you $100 each if you win this game by 15-20. They could have done it. They took their foot off the gas, right? At the end there. Yeah, they did.
I don't know, man.
At the very end, after LeBron hit that 3, they just coasted the rest of the way. And the last couple of buckets, that's what I'm saying. The last couple of buckets the Celtics made, who cared? Right?
That's fair. Yeah.
You know? I mean, so that's why
they had 2 dunks at the end of the game, or 2 layups rather.
Yeah. So the margin ends up being a non-double-digit margin, but we know that's not necessarily indicative of this particular. It wasn't a close game. Like, it never got close. Like, to where it was really felt like it was in the balance. Every time they got it to 7 or 8, it ballooned back up. What do you make of it? How is this possible? I get it with the Warriors and the Rockets. I just think the Warriors are way better than the Rockets. And that when they are given to complacency, unless they feel threatened, and then when they focus and they ratchet it up, they can bury anybody they want to. But with Boston and Cleveland, what do you make of this? How can you be so good at home and so bad on the road through 4 games? Both teams.
It's weird. It's weird. That's for damn sure. I mean, it's like I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it's like a 20 points per 100 possession difference for the Celtics, at least. Home versus road. It's kind of remarkable in a way. I mean, it's kind of a symptom with young teams sometimes that they're just better at home than they are on the road. But part of it, to me, Chris, is just the fact that Cleveland is flat out playing harder on defense. They're playing their bigs with Tristan Thompson and Larry Nance. I think it's more so the game plan has shifted a little bit for Cleveland, more so than the home versus road thing, though it's certainly a factor. The Boston seems a little bit tighter on the road than they have at home, and there's no denying the Celtics crowd, TD Garden, is absolutely ridiculous. LeBron mentioned that in his post-game interview at Doris Burke as well. It's all a factor, but I think mostly it's Cleveland's game plan shifting that has made the difference in these last 2 games compared to the first 2.
I think your first point makes sense. You know, that young guys can be more, spurred on by the cheers, honestly. Like, I mean, what other reason is, how's Terry Rozier dropping like 26? Like, it seems like damn near every time they're playing at home. And you see, I mean, their crowd really gets into it, and they got a bunch of young players on their team that could be more
though,
affected.
like Cleveland is, I mean, Ohio is home for Terry Rozier too, though.
Right.
Like, he's from Youngstown, Ohio. So maybe for him, it's a little different where like maybe he's playing in front of family and friends and whatnot.
I'm just saying, young guys, when they get up and make a big play and flex to the crowd, it's like all of a sudden they're like filled with this crazy confidence, right? There ain't nobody to flex to if you make an awesome play on the road, right?
Sure.
And you see them, I'm just saying that's a lot more common. I mean, hell, you even see it with some veteran teams. You see that game last night, good grief, when the Warriors really got going. I mean, that was absolute I mean, you were there. It's pandemonium. And they're playing to the crowd. Steph's playing to the crowd. They're all yelling and hollering.
The only way I can describe it last night is that it seemed like every shot Steph made, like every time that ball went through the hoop, it was as if someone was pressing the volume up button on like the controller for the crowd. Like every shot made, the crowd got louder. It was insane to witness.
Well, not to mention that it comes through on TV so much because that place is so small. Right? Like in terms of the way that is built, I read some article that like it was something like you could drop the entire, like the contents of where the fans are and the court is in that particular arena. And of course they're getting the new one, but that you could take that and you could like set it inside the lower bowl of Chicago Stadium, right? Or like some of these other arenas that are played in. It's just because they're right on top of you. There's not some of these arenas you see there is a massive distance between the court and wherever the first row is. And that's just not the case. I mean, hell, even when they showed Marv Albert and Chris Webber and whatever, it's like they're hunkered down in the midst of 2,000 people, you know, like they're just like they barely got their little table set up. And
It's a cool arena
hanging all over them.
I like that arena a lot. I can't figure out how to get out of that place, but I have no idea where I'm going. I'm totally lost in that arena. No idea how to leave. I was the last person to leave last night. I was totally lost. It was like a maze.
I watched your Instagram story, and I mean that. Come on, Kevin, that's pathetic. You were like walking around.
What are you talking about?
Well, it was. I'm saying that you were there at the very end, and you were like, and I got done writing my column, and I'm walking around. Dude, there was nobody there. There wasn't even like a friggin' worker there. There was no security guard. No, I'm like, what are you doing in a totally vacant
there was
arena?
Workers there. Yeah, because I wrote the whole article there. I clipped all the video by myself there. I didn't go home first, or rather to the hotel first or anything. But okay, so here's the thing. I can't believe I'm sharing this story. I can't believe I'm sharing this. But after I put that video up on my Instagram story, just to give some background, like Chris said, I said, I'm last one to leave. Didn't realize it. I thought people would be there. It was only like 10 o'clock. But anyway, so after that, I called my Lyft ride, right, to pick me up. And I walk out the place to the exit where I think you're supposed to go to the lift area from what I remember last year at the finals. And it's closed. Like I can't get out that way. So I go through a different exit. And so I go through this different exit because it's pretty close to the area where the pickup spot is. And there's like no way to get through the fence. Like there's no gate. There's no gate to get through. So I climbed the fence.
No.
Yeah.
Kevin
I climbed the fence. Yeah. I escaped Oracle Arena. Yeah.
Wait,
because I wasn't going to go back inside to find another exit because my Lyft driver was already there. So I climbed a fence to escape Oracle Arena.
Okay, hold on. I've got so many questions about this. Kevin O'Climber. All right. How high was the fence?
Not high at all. It was a very short fence, which doesn't seem safe at all. Like it was the type, like I could step up onto something, then get my leg up on top of the fence, and then go over. Like it wasn't a super high fence. I don't think I could do that with my backpack and all that.
Was this fence made of metal?
Yes.
It was a metal fence.
Yep.
Okay. And as you are scaling the metal fence, does your Lyft driver see you?
No, I gave him a call before I climbed the fence. I was like, "Hey, just let you know, I went out the wrong exit, but I'll be there shortly. I'm on my way there now, knowing that I'm about to scale a fence."
If he would have seen you, he would have thought he was picking up a robber, right? Like who is jumping a fence from Oracle Arena with a backpack?
Like 10 o'clock at night. I know. I know.
So, why didn't you Instagram this? This is the most interesting thing that happened.
Well, because I didn't, dude. I didn't want to break the phone or anything like that. If I fell, you know what I'm saying? If I had fallen and I broke my phone, because I was like, I'm gonna put this on Instagram to share it to everybody so they can all see it. I was like, no.
What you should have done is you should at least taken a picture of the fence and say, I have to jump this to get to my lift, right? I just wanted to get back to my hotel, Chris. That's all my only objective. I wanted to get home. Oh, and this is so sad too, because you were all dressed up. I saw you. You were like all dressed up real nice. So there you are you're in your dress clothes you're in a sport coat having to jump a fence.
Dude, I feel really proud of myself. I feel really, because look, I could have went back inside and searched for an exit, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to just scale this fence. And it worked. Got to my driver. Wasn't late.
Escape from Oracle Arena.
Yeah. Hopefully Tuesday night goes better than that. I'm going to definitely going to try to leave earlier.
Featuring Kevin O'Climber. Unbelievable, Kevin. I'm so proud of you.
Warriors PR for directions this time.
I can't believe that you were the last person in the entire arena, and you get lost every time you're in the arena.
I don't know why I shared that story.
I'm glad
but
you did.
I'm happy I did. Yeah, I had to tell somebody.
Yeah, there you go.
I had to get that off my chest.
Hey, you know what? You know what can usually help in those situations is like friends. Maybe you could have had somebody there that maybe that's why you don't want to be literally the last person to leave, so that you could say, hey, how do you get out of this place?
All right. So here's the thing. Okay. Right. So they're in this media area, right? They have this one big media section where they have the food and all that. And then they have a small media section. This is the place I was sitting. And the whole time I was there was maybe only like 2 or 3 other people in the area. And one of them was like a camera guy. Okay. So I don't know where like the other writers were. I don't know where Sam Amick was. I don't know where Matt Moore was. I don't know where they were sitting. My guess is most people just went straight back to their hotel to write, because I didn't see anybody after the locker room stuff was done. So I'm thinking people just left right away. And that's what I should have done. And that's what I'm going to do, I think, after game 4 tomorrow night, because, yeah.
No, you need to make this
alone in Oracle Arena is not ideal.
You need to make this a thing. Now, from now on, you just need to scale the fence every time you leave there. Hey, you know what? No, grab one of them. Grab like Sam Amick or Matt Moore, whoever, and then just wait like till everybody's ready to walk out and be like, I know a way. And then walk out there. Say, we got to just jump that fence, but I mean, it's quick. All right, Kevin, we'll get right back to it in a minute. First, I want to tell everybody about ZipRecruiter. If you're hiring, every business needs great people and a better way to find them. Something better than posting your job online and just praying for the right people to see it. ZipRecruiter knew there was a smarter way, so they built a platform that finds the right job candidates for you. ZipRecruiter learns what you're looking for, identifies people with the right experience, and invites them to apply for your job. These invitations have revolutionized how you find the next hire. In fact, 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. And ZipRecruiter doesn't stop there. They even spotlight the strongest applications you receive, so you never miss a great match. The right candidates are out there. ZipRecruiter is how you find them. Businesses of all sizes trust ZipRecruiter for their hiring needs. Right now, our listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/RingerNBA. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RingerNBA. ZipRecruiter.com/RingerNBA. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
You know, the funny thing is, I mentioned how there was like no door. There was a door, but like there's a gate. But it said like it was the type of gate. It says press the button. Like you know, some gates you press a button for the gate to open. I pressed the button and it didn't work.
All right, let's get back to
man.
all right.
Yeah.
Before
very disappointing.
I am going to jump back to the Warriors game, but first,
there's basketball.
As we're wrapping up Cleveland and Boston, do you now feel more like this series is going to go 6 games, or that this series is going to go 7 games?
I still feel like it goes 7. I think Celtics can push this to 7.
And so we will get the game 7, and it will be Celtics win 5, Cleveland win 6, 7 is in Boston.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I thought
so.
that, I know some people might disagree, but I thought tonight this was, this was a big opportunity for the Celtics, because you got to win 2 out of 3 against LeBron, and you got to win a game 7 against LeBron. Neither of those things are easy to bet against,
not at all.
Bet that they can
not
happen,
at all.
right? So there's no way around that now, unless you could somehow win on the road in Cleveland in game 6. But again, now you're asking yourself to win an elimination game in his home arena. So there's no great way to, it's the reason he has been in the NBA finals every year for like the better part of a decade.
Yeah. Right? There's no simple solutions against the king.
Yep. So, all right. So you think I'm with you on this. I mean, it feels like home teams will probably hold serve, and that we'll get a game 7. But the shame of that all is that feels very predictable. So hopefully something unpredictable happens in these next couple, because these games, I have just been so disappointed. I really thought they would be super competitive. Hell, even the Toronto series, those games weren't burials. In fact, I mean, we could certainly argue Toronto should have won 2 of those. Right? So, I mean, they came down to the end, and they were super exciting, and everybody was talking about them. It felt like there was just no even chatter by the time we got to the fourth quarter of this game. Just taking the fun out of it. Because, I guess they were still down. They're still down by, double digits going into the fourth. I think they were down 14 or whatever, 15. They had barely made any headway.
I just want some good basketball, man.
I know.
Like, look, I mean, ever since this entire month of May, really, the only good game we've pretty much had was game 5, Boston, Philadelphia. Like that's the first one that comes to mind. And then earlier in the round, Cleveland versus Toronto, game 1 was tremendous. Had a couple others early in the second round series, but ever since that game 5 between Boston and Philly, we haven't had any super competitive basketball games, and I'm having withdrawals, Chris, and I'm worried that we're not going to get any the rest of the way unless Golden State and Houston or Cleveland and Boston somehow starts giving us a fight, because I don't know if we're going to get it in the finals no matter who makes it in the East.
Golden State's going to kill these teams.
Yeah. I mean that's what I'm afraid of. Like maybe the next month, it's just going to be a bunch of blowouts.
No, the only thing you can count on is Golden State complacency, possibly, right? Because they have been prone to do that, to just mail in a game. And you see a radical difference in their effort, energy, and focus. And then when they decide to turn back up, you get what you got last night, which is just beyond devastating. And they're so locked in defensively. And last night, obviously, they wrecked the straight line drives of the Houston Rockets, which their offense is predicated upon those being able to take place, or else you've got a lot of standing around. I'll tell you this: I read the Mike D'Antoni quote today saying that the pressure's all on Golden State. Ha! I mean, that's a cool thing to say. But obviously, it's over if it's Houston. And regarding the complacency and regarding the attention, I mean, don't you feel like Golden State, like this will be one where I'd be shocked if they're not like super locked in, because they know if you win that game, you take game 7 out of the equation, right? And that's what and they should care about that. It's seemingly, there are a lot of times where you're watching them and it's like, they just feel like they'll turn it up when they have to. And sometimes that's within the context of a game. Sometimes that's within the context of a series. But I think with that next game, with game 4, it feels like, I don't know, their antennas should really be up, because they know that they would, if they drop that game, they're going to have to play a game 7 in Houston. Not that they don't think they can win at Houston, but you're for sure taking it out of the equation if you can win game 4. What do you think?
I'm still on the pressure comment, Chris. It's just a weird statement by D'Antoni to me. I mean, like Kerr said today at practice, he's like, I hope the pressure's on us. We're better when the pressure's on, but it's kind of on them too, right? Houston needs to win this game tomorrow night. I mean, that goes without saying that they need to win this game to tie it 2-2. The trouble is I'm not sure what they can do from a schematic point of view differently. I feel like they have a really good game plan. They're attacking Steph on the offensive end of the floor. They got inside the paint. They were getting layups. They just missed a lot. In game 3, kind of like Boston did tonight. They're switching on defense. They're forcing Golden State into getting super fancy with their off-ball cuts, and they're forcing them into more isolations than they like to have. Houston has a really good game plan. Golden State's just better.
Well, they're not 1,000 points better. Come on.
No, they're not.
I mean, they beat them by 1,000 in the last game.
Look, that 41-point difference, the game, Houston was better than that. Like the score wasn't indicative of the quality of play, in my opinion.
What?
It wasn't a 41-point, dude. I said, Houston got to the lane a lot. They were getting layups, and they just happened to miss. They still still made things hard on Golden State, and it wasn't really until that avalanche by Stephen Curry in the second half and then the meltdown in the fourth quarter that the separation was significant. They were down by only 9 to 13 points in the middle of the third quarter, and you're going to say that's a lot, but it's really not. You can dig yourself out of that hole in a second. It wasn't like a massive blow until Steph caught fire in that third quarter. And there's nothing you can do about that, which speaks to Golden State's greatness. When Steph is on, they're unbeatable.
Well, they also lost the fourth quarter by 20 points.
Yeah, they melted down after that. They mailed it in.
85. Hey, I know this take is going to be so scorching that I want people to try to put on a mask if they can. I don't think you can beat Golden State scoring 85.
Oh God! I thought I was ready for a real take. I was ready. Come
85 points. Come on. That game was closer than 41. Okay, what was it?
Come on.
Hey, Kev, what was it? 25?
It was.
Is it a 25-point game?
Okay, all right. Okay, when there was 7 minutes and 5 seconds left in the third quarter, I turned to Tommy Alter, sitting right next to me from theringer.com, and I said to him, I was like, Tommy, dude, like this game can get close quickly. It's only 13 points. Houston gets a couple of stops, hits a couple of threes, and we get a ball game here. That didn't happen because Curry went off.
Oh, but Kevin O wishful thinking showed up. Your beloved, you went to your beloved.
How are we arguing about this?
Oh, you know what? I hate this. Now that I'm thinking about this, I should have been more tender with you. You went to your team's funeral and then you had to friggin' jump a fence to leave. Your team got urinated on and then you couldn't even find your way out of the damn arena. The reason you were the last one in the arena because you were bawling your eyes out because your team just got beat by 41 friggin' points. Mike D'Antoni's team got beat by 40. It was closer than you think. And by the way, just on a side note, what is Tommy, the great Tommy Alter, doing slumming with you? This guy hangs out with like Malcolm Gladwell and Jesus and Marrow. He's sitting there talking to you during the game. He had to be in hell. Tommy's like a mover and shaker.
I'm gonna act like a player post game. You're gonna have to ask Tommy about that.
No comment.
Yeah, no comment.
You're gonna no comment me.
No comment. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so now the thing is when you're talking about the way they played the way they played and you're not real sure of what adjustments they can make. It was I said we joke, but it was a 41-point mark. I mean, they got absolutely throttled in that game. What are the chances we see a very competitive game 4? I am just looking for something to give me a sign that we will see some competition because we have been devoid of. Right now, I'm going to pull up the line and see what Vegas has got this. And obviously, Vegas hasn't been able to put numbers. I guess the number tonight was pretty close. I think it was 7, if I'm not mistaken. So the final margin ended up being 9. That was reasonably close to the number. Yeah, it's Golden State 8.5 for the next game. Ish.
In terms of adjustments, Chris,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's with rotations. We talked about this in the Ringer Slack today. Me, Charks, went back and forth on it a little bit, and maybe it's flipping the starting lineup. Maybe you start small with PJ Tucker at the 5, and then you go big towards the end of the quarter with Capella, rather than doing it the way you're doing it now. I'm not sure that would work out. I mean, Rockets and Warriors were tied up 22-22 with 2 minutes and 46 seconds left in the first quarter in Game 3. The starting lineup was perfectly fine with Clint Capella. I think it's maybe if you do that, it's more about that next stretch, setting it up so when Kevon Looney's out there for Golden State, that's when you have Capella out there, rather than going small at that time. But I'm not sure that would make much of a difference. I think with Houston, again, it's like we said this with Boston as well. They missed a ton of layups. They did not shoot the ball well at all inside. Shot below 50%, missed over half their shots in the restricted area and within 8 feet of the rim. And look, man, Daryl Morey said it in 2017, right? He figured the only way you beat Golden State is with a barrage of 3-pointers. That's the term he used, a barrage of 3-pointers. And they didn't get that in games 1 and 3. They did in Game 2. And maybe the formula is exactly what Daryl said in 2017. You need a barrage of 3-pointers.
Well, I just totally disagree. I mean, I think, and I've told you this many times, and the same thing goes with playing against Houston if your name's not Golden State. You've got to make them uncomfortable and not let them play the kind of game where they can score 115 to 130 points on you.
They were uncomfortable. That's where we disagree on this. It's like Golden State is getting look, they scored 126. I know how stupid this sounds. They scored 126, but Houston's switching defense has forced Golden State into a lot more isolations than they're used to, over double the amount. And not only that, they have to get so fancy off ball with some of their cuts, with fakes, with jukes, with the off-ball screen actions, with flare screens to get guys open because Houston's defense is forcing them into that.
We have a term for that in the South, Kevin. It's called frontier gibberish. They've given up 1,000 points a game.
I get it.
Good
grief.
But
I get it.
They can't stop shit. I mean,
because Stephen Curry went nuclear in the third quarter. Because Kevin Durant is one of the best isolation scorers in basketball. Because Golden State could beat you anyway, but that doesn't mean Houston didn't make it hard on them.
What? Their offensive rating's like 100,000. They can't stop anybody.
Oh, Chris, I love you.
I mean, even James Harden, that defense. I saw how hard he made it on Sean Livingston, who's 150 years old. Sean Livingston is friggin' crossing the guy over at the top of the key, and he's reaching for air.
I get it. Yes.
I know you're defending. I know you're defending them. They have given up 119, 105, which was good, and 126 so far in this series. That's what they've given up.
I get it.
It's been so hard on Golden State. Good grief. I mean, this is like David Ortiz hitting 750 in the playoffs and then saying the Yankees pitchers really made him work. Like, what are you talking about? The guy's hitting 750 with 10 bombs. You really made him work for those 750.
Okay. I want you to tell me, Chris, what can Houston do better to stop Kevin Durant isos, to stop Stephen Curry unloading 3-pointers from 35 feet? What can Houston do better in those situations?
Listen, this is my opinion of what you have to do against Golden State. Number one, you drag that pace into the mud.
I know what you're going to say, like the Memphis Grizzlies did.
No, guess who is the team that has beaten them during this run? Who's the team?
The Cleveland Cavaliers coming back from down 3-1.
Go look up at the scores. Go look at them. See what they gave up in that series. Give me, once it was 3-1, how many points did Cleveland give up in those last 3 times that they won? When they won those 3 straight games, I think Golden State might have gotten to 100 one time. I realize it's a different incarnation when it's Kevin Durant instead of Harrison Barnes. But that team won 72 games, and they were devastating. And the way that Cleveland, so forget the way that Cleveland was able to do it was because they slowed down that game, they limited the possessions, and they played great defense and made those games where they were played in the 90s. They're played in the, tick over 100 points. What you can't do is beat them at their own game. That is suicide. And mark my words, Boston or Cleveland, they won't have enough, but I guarantee you they ain't going to try to run with the Warriors. Both of them are too smart.
I don't know, man. Houston's playing at their pace they have all season long. And I mean, Golden State can just beat you any single way. Like they are the team all the people thought they were going to be on July 4th, 2016, when Kevin Durant signed with them. They are becoming that team where they can beat you any single way. They have an answer for everything on their team. Chris Paul isolation, guess what? They have Klay Thompson who can defend. They have Andre Iguodala. They have a bunch of switchable defenders. They have Kevon Looney, who has turned into a really, really good, versatile big man for their team. They have an answer for absolutely everything. They have Draymond Green, one of, if not the best defensive players in the league, who, by the way, can stop Chris Paul just as much as he can Clint Capella, because he defends bigs just as well as he does smalls. They have an answer for everything on both ends of the floor. Like I said, even when Houston is putting them into situations, isolations, where they haven't really leaned on that a lot over the course of the season, they can still kill you, because guess what? Houston has done that the whole year with Chris Paul and James Harden, and they've done it better than anybody has done it in recorded history with synergy data. But Golden State can do that too if they want to, because they have Kevin Durant and Stephen freaking Curry. They can beat you any single way, man.
They have lost 3 games so far this postseason. They lost to San Antonio and they scored 90. They lost at New Orleans and scored 100, and they lost at Houston and scored 105. Those are their 3 totals. And then obviously they have been over 110 in every other game that they have played so far in this postseason. So I would tell you that it is, yes, much easier said than done, but that is your chance. Your chance is keeping the score low. Because once you get into the range that you're talking about, I mean, they won the elimination game against San Antonio 99-91, but at least San Antonio was in that game, right, before they ended up losing in the end.
Good luck.
No,
Daryl Morey said it in 2017. This is what he said. This is the exact quote. We absolutely figured the only way we're going to beat them is with a barrage of 3-pointers, and it's probably going to be a 124 to 120 affair if we're going to get past them. That's what it's going to have to be, because there's no answer for Golden State. They're going to score. It's just Houston really needs to elevate their offense. They need to make their layups. They need to make their threes, because their game plan is already really good, in my opinion. They have a great game plan.
Jesus Christ, they got beat by 41 points. I mean, I can't believe this. I can't even believe what I'm hearing. I really can't. I mean, boy, that is really. I've heard of trust in the process, but hey, your game plan is shit if you lose by 40 points. Your game plan is not the right game plan. Hey,
Jesus Christ.
Now that's my scorching take, because obviously this is going to be highly controversial. If you lose by 40, your game plan is crap, and you need to throw it away.
If I don't know if there's anybody in the hotel room next to me, but if there is, they're probably thinking I'm like arguing with my wife right now or something over the phone.
Speaking of, hey, one of the big differences is obviously, listen, in all seriousness, we talked about what they could do with a lineup or whatever. They need somebody else that off their bench to do something for them. And what we've seen is in the game that they won, they got awesome Eric Gordon, like 6 for 9 from 3, 27-point Eric Gordon. And then last night they get 4 for 13, 2 for 8 from 3, minus 33 next to his name for the game. I mean, minus 33 for Eric Gordon ain't going to cut it, my friend. And the other thing is, obviously, and this needs to be brought up, Chris Paul has shot very poorly in this series. You know what I mean? Like, he is, they got to have great Chris Paul. And we saw flashes of that for sure in the Utah series. Those last 2 games, he looked like, went in a time machine, and he's back playing for New Orleans. I mean, he had, I think 68 points in the last 2 games in that series, and he was he was the best guy for them.
He was absolutely tremendous in those games.
Yeah,
just absolutely unbelievable, right? Just like he has. I mean, everybody joked about him never making the conference finals, but he's had a lot of big games. But these last 2, really bad, Chris, huh?
Yeah, rough stuff for because he's 11 for 30 from the field. I mean, that can't be. You know how much is predicated upon him and James. And so him being 11 for 30 in these last 2 games, and that's including a win. I mean, they won that, I'm giving them the win. I mean, he's 8 for 17 in the first one. So if you just add those up, the quick math is he's 19 for 47 for the series. I mean, that can't be, Kev. So
no, I mean, something's off, right? I mean, I know there's some speculation out there that he's hurt or whatever, but at this point of the year, Steph Curry's dealing with something too, right? And he still lit it up. He still went nuclear, even though we argued about that, whether that's Houston or whatever, but Chris Paul's got to be better no matter what it is. Look, put it this way, in that game 3, Klay Thompson blocked him twice. One of them was at the rim where it looked like Chris Paul had a step. Thompson blocked him at the rim. There's another time where it looked like Chris Paul was open for 3. Thompson swatted his shot away. Draymond Green on a couple occasions just steered him away from the rim. Chris Paul is going to be better. Just flat out needs to be better. I think he can still be the second best player on a championship team, even at 33 years old. But right now, he looks like a 33-year-old point guard.
Well, and the other thing is, listen, let's put a little bit on his MVP running buddy, because truth be told, like, James Harden can't be 20 points a game. He can't. He can't get you 20. He's got to be awesome every time. I'm saying if you have any chance to beat the Warriors. He can't be 20-point James Harden is, that's not going to get it done for you.
I felt like there was a little bit of hate behind that phrase, his MVP running buddy.
Oh, he's Mr. Game 1, typically. I mean, they got he had 41, but they got beat by double digits in Game 1.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, he's 20 point. I mean, as series have gone on, he has not gotten better. And that's not me slighting him. That is the truth. His number.
The frustrating, I mean, we've hit on this a couple times. The frustrating thing, if you're a Rockets fan, has to be the fact that, like, he's getting to the lane. Like, he's getting to the rim. He was just missing some easy layups. And by the way, I don't think he got that good of a whistle in games 2 and 3. And really, for the most of the playoffs, he hasn't, for that matter, either. Hasn't been quite what it was during the regular season, which I guess is to be expected.
Oh my good. Hey, hold on a second. Take a time out, because I've got to go get some hankies real quick. Let me cry a couple tears for the foul hunter not getting not getting all the calls. James Harden doesn't get the calls that he usually gets. Seriously. I'm going to vomit. I can't believe what? He hasn't gotten a good whistle. This guy has, his whole career is based on the whistle. The guy, it's what he does. He's foul hunter, and he's not getting those calls.
It's a pretty good nickname, Fall Hunter.
Foul hunter.
By the way, I pulled. Yeah, it is. I pulled up the stats, and in the regular season, he scored. He drew a foul on 11.4% of his drives to the rim. And in the playoffs, it's down to 4.7% of his drives. So, wow. pretty significant difference from his drives from the regular season to the playoffs. And I'm sure Rockets fans probably aren't happy about that. I'm sure the Rockets themselves aren't either, but
it's 11.4
during the regular season.
Oh, wow. I would have been way off on that. I was guessing 80 to 90%, it feels like.
Well, he gets to the lane a lot. Gets to the bucket a ton.
I feel like that Joker's at the foul line the entire game, every game I watch. But
whatever works.
Hey, he wasn't whatever works. They got beat by 41. Yeah, that happened, Kevin. You can't take that away.
I know it happened, but it was.
But it was a good game plan. Missed a lot of layups. Harden didn't get any calls.
Forget it.
All right. Last thing before we get out of here. You did write about the draft chatter and everything about being at the combine. I know you and Jonathan Tjarks are going to be covering a lot of this on Fridays. Yeah, on Draft Class coming up this weekend. But was that your first time that you've been to the combine, or had you been previously?
Fourth year actually at the combine. The first year I didn't have credentials, but 4 or 5 years, depending on how you want to put it.
4 or 5 years. Obviously, the biggest names don't participate in some of this stuff, but I did watch as much as I could. They were broadcasting it on ESPN2, and it did seem like there were some guys that clearly helped themselves, guys that really hurt themselves. Well, I don't want to say really hurt themselves. That might be a little step too far, but really helped themselves is certainly true. Who did you feel like of the guys that participated got the most buzz? Because just from television, Twitter, etc., it seemed like the two biggest that I was gathering about were the kid from Maryland, and I don't want to screw up his name. Is it how do you say it?
Kevin Huerter. Kevin Huerter.
Huerter, and then of course DiVincenzo from Villanova, right? Yep. Who was, I mean, the athletic stuff was off the charts with the 42-inch vertical. He's grabbing one-arm rebounds in traffic and bombing threes, playing in the 5-on-5 there. So he obviously helped himself a lot, and then Huerter. But that's kind of what I'm just gathering from social media and from watching their broadcast, with boots on the ground. What did you gather that was like, who was getting the most buzz from somebody that performed there?
Certainly the two you mentioned, especially Kevin Huerter. But in a way, like, it's weird because with Huerter, watching him at Maryland, you already knew he could stroke threes, right? You already knew he could pass off the dribble. The difference is like you're seeing him do that against some really good defensive players. So that was encouraging from a standpoint that he was so good that he sat out day 2. There was no reason to play. He already proved himself. And then you also mentioned Dante DiVincenzo from Villanova. He was killing it out there, man. Diving around on the floor, playing super energetic defense. He's hitting shots off the dribble, hitting spot up threes, making some passes, showing off his combo guard potential. The guy that really stood out to me the most was a guy that, me, Tjarks, and Danny Chow all kind of liked heading into the combine, was Josh Okogie from Georgia Tech. He's a 3-and-D wing. Really plays hard on the defensive end of the floor. He's big, strong, capable of defending 3 or 4 positions, hit spot up threes. And one of his flaws, Chris, is that, sometimes he takes these annoying jumpers early in the clock sometimes, or forces things, and you want him to be like, just play his role, just be you. But the thing is to me, when I see that, it's like, man, maybe there's a little bit more to his game. If he develops his ball handling a little bit more, develops his jumper a little bit more off the dribble as much as it is off the catch, maybe there's more to him than being a 3-and-D player. Josh Okogie's really a guy to keep a guy on. He's 17th on my board.
Well, and his measurement stuff was just off the charts. I mean, the wingspan, the athletic testing, everything was just super impressive for sure. Like he's clearly got all the tools. When you're looking for stuff and you go, well, if you're talking a guy that size with the kind of wingspan that he's got and the kind of jumping ability that he's got, I mean, if you could play basketball, I mean, and team that up with, and I can't speak to the kid and what kind of personality he has, and you never know, because that's clearly
I'll tell you, he busts his ass.
Yeah,
he busts his ass. He's a real hard worker, Josh Okogie, ever since high school. There's a good clip out there on YouTube that Dean Damascus tweeted out earlier today. Dean on Draft on Twitter, where 16-year-old Josh Okogie is talking about how he wakes up at 4:30 in the morning to get to the gym at 5:30 workouts during his summers. I mean, he's worked his ass off for years now, and that's not going to stop.
Yeah, give me that guy. For sure.
Sign me up.
One other thing I did want to ask you, because I want to get one other thought. You're there and you're watching it all, and so like somebody like Okogie, it's like, wow, he's clearly. I liked the guy, but maybe I had him a little undervalued. How about the opposite? And I know this isn't the easiest thing to do, but you are doing this and analyzing the draft leading up. Was there somebody that you softened on, or somebody that you are going to completely abandon after what took place?
I'm not going to abandon him, but I've certainly softened on Shake Milton. He's a guard from SMU. Yeah. Shake came into the game on Thursday and he blocked someone on the other team, like almost certainly like right after checking into the game. And it was like, oh, great, Shake's in the game, bringing the energy. And then after that, it was a whole bunch of nothing. He shot 0 for 6 from the field over both games that he appeared in. Really inconsistent on the defensive end of the floor. And that's been a problem for him really his entire career at SMU, where you see the potential with him being a lockdown two-way guard who can, facilitate a little bit, who can hit spot up threes for you, just a really good role player. And maybe he can still be that, but he didn't bring it. He just didn't bring it, and he didn't look really that impactful in either of the scrimmages that he appeared in. And he's going to have to, I think, help himself in workouts moving forward, because he definitely hurt himself in the scrimmages.
One last thing. This draft could be really impacted by possible trades. And so it seems as if over the course of the last couple of weeks, and this is what happens when a lot of executives are around each other, as are a lot of media members, that everybody just starts kind of talking, and then it becomes underground chatter about stuff that then becomes not necessarily reports, but rumors that it's like it's what people are talking about type of stuff, right? And so that hit with Towns at the end of last week. And I know Brian Windhorst and Zach Lowe kind of brought that to the forefront about Towns being upset. And then you saw some of the players interacting on Twitter surrounding that particular statement, that him and Minnesota were sideways. Obviously, the Kawhi stuff has been hanging out there for a long time now. But in terms of being there and talking to people all the time, do you think that big player movement could involve this particular draft? And who was Towns on the forefront of what people were talking about in terms of like players already in the league and controversy?
Not really with Towns. I don't recall having a conversation really that those 2 days with anybody about Towns. It kind of came after that conversation between Zach and Brian, where that kind of just started stirring the pot, where people started talking about it more. Because the thing is it's true, right? We talked about this back in December, the chemistry issues with Minnesota. Hasn't necessarily gone away. Jimmy Butler just a couple of weeks ago mentioned how his young teammates they don't get what it takes, right? They don't understand what it takes to win in the NBA. And that's kind of a subtweet at probably Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, right? I mean, who else would it be? So there's certainly something there. It's just a matter of how extreme of a concern is it? Would it be something where Tibbs is going to trade a 22-year-old superstar center who only 1 year ago averaged 25 and 12? I think that would be insane. And the idea that some people have thrown out there about trading Towns for the number 1 pick, I don't see why Minnesota would do that, because Minnesota is trying to continue making playoff pushes. I don't think there's a deal out there that makes sense for Karl Anthony Towns. And I can think of a couple of things that Minnesota should do before trading Karl Anthony Towns.
Well, moving Karl Anthony Towns would just be, I agree with you, absolute insanity.
And by the way, like let's say it's a thing where Towns just doesn't fit with the team, right? It just doesn't fit personality wise. That might not say as much about Towns as about other guys in the locker room, perhaps too. Maybe Towns is the guy that should be the keeper.
You think? You think the one that like shoots like Steve Nash-esque percentages, I mean,
no kidding.
With the numbers he was putting up from 3-point range, even this past year, like, no, come on, those guys don't come around.
He is absolutely a stud. I mean, his second half of his sophomore season, they were mentioned earlier, the 25 and 12. I think his second half was something like 28.5 points and 14 rebounds and like insane offensive efficiency. And he was just unbelievable. And like, yeah, you could say, oh, his defense isn't that good. Minnesota didn't win games with him. And it's like, yeah, that's damn true. Like, he needs to get a lot better at the little things. He needs to get better at screening. He needs to get better at passing. He needs to get better at defense. I get it. But that dude can put the ball in the hoop at a high clip and an efficient clip, and he can rebound as well.
Guys like him just don't come around. I talked to you about this. Listen, regarding the NBA draft this year, you know, when I said I'm not crazy about this NBA draft, and I was like, I didn't feel like there is a Anthony Davis, and I threw Towns in that conversation, right? As like the no-brainer. This guy could, like, for real be a Hall of Famer. And like, I don't see that with this particular draft. Surely somebody will more than likely emerge as a great player for sure. But there was no mystery with him. That guy was going to be a great player, right? You knew you were. And so, God bless, if you moved off of him at this age, I mean, rue the day. You just don't get chances to get guys like that. You better fix that quick.
It's funny because like with Ayton, right? I don't rank him as highly as Towns either. I mean, I know I like him a lot more than you. We've argued about this before, but with Ayton, I still think Towns came in as a player that you expected him to be a really good defender because he was pretty good at Kentucky on the defensive end of the floor. It's almost like he just hasn't gotten better from what he was. So with Ayton, it'll be interesting. He's knocked, almost maybe too much for his defense, his poor defense in college. But I think there's a lot of room for him to grow on that end of the floor, where he already has significant offensive talent. It's gonna be interesting to see. But you're right, Chris. Not a lot of guys like Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, I'd work that one out, real Popovich style with LaMarcus Aldridge, right? Like, you will not get value for that guy. You just won't.
What do you think about him liking the tweets? Like, so Devin Booker tweeted out that photo of Towns wearing the Suns jersey, which was taken back in December. It's an old picture, but then Towns liked the tweet, and then Zach LaVine edited the photo to make it look like a Bulls jersey, and Towns like that too. What's your take on that? Like, is that a sign of some underlying issue that perhaps Towns isn't happy himself?
Yes, and I think it is intense immaturity.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's, mm-hmm. And I think that's probably the issue with the kid, mm-hmm. and that will change over time.
You would hope,
but because you know your buddies are doing that, right? I mean, he's just it's goofy. I mean, that's the nicest way to term it, because I don't think he does not come off to me as a malcontent or a malicious guy. But it certainly comes off goofy when your friends are saying, "Hey, man, I'm going to tweet." They told him they're going to tweet out that picture, and he's like, "Yeah, do that," and like somehow thinks that that's funny. Like, yo, man, this ain't a kid's game. Like, you're a real adult with a real job, and like just because you get some retweets, that's not funny, right?
Yeah, there's literally nothing to be gained.
No, and you have to be, and it's also a colossal. It's a lack of awareness, man. It's a lack of. I guarantee you, his agent called him immediately and was like, "What in the hell are you doing? Are you insane?" I mean, because it's no win. It's no win. You're right.
I'm not saying, just to clarify here, I'm not saying anything about whatever the agent's intentions are, but if I were his agent, maybe you are like, do it, push your way out.
We got to get you out of it.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, you could also have that perspective too.
Maybe so. Maybe.
We don't want you playing 36 minutes per game anymore at 22 years old.
Maybe you're right. Maybe his agent did say, "Hey, go like Devin Booker's tweet."
We need you to have a long career. We don't need you flaming out like Joakim Noah.
Yeah, right. Oy.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
How dare you? Leave Joakim out of this.
Yeah.
Hey, he gave his life to Tom Thibodeau, literally.
I know.
He went through the war, and look where he ended up. So that guy went hard all the time. Don't blame him. His body failed him because he played 60 minutes of 48-minute games for
Did you
6 years.
Did you see Noah's beard? He has like a blonde beard now.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe hopefully not like 8 years from now. We don't see Karl Anthony Towns out in the wilderness with a blonde beard. then we know something went wrong along the way.
I don't want to hear about you scaling any fences, Kevin.
I'll let you know tomorrow night. Hopefully it goes better.
Need you uninjured for the next episode. All right. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
I'll be safe. Talk to you, Chris. That was fun.
Thanks, man. All right. If you dig what you're hearing, go give us a rating and review on iTunes, and we will talk to you next week.